Today, I stand before you as the rebirth of an incarnated spirit, feeling like a messenger, here to express regret for our mistakes. There are no better words for me to use than to say, I am sorry. I'm sorry for all our losses. I'm sorry that our currencies have lost the value. I'm sorry that our economy is collapsing. The time is now that we took responsibility for the mess we find ourselves in. We must break free from the cycle of dependency and exploitation. We must industrialize. This is my petition to the world. Many countries have benefited from the resources of our nations and should have contributed to our development. My petition calls for an end to foreign influence in our political narrative, but also requires an international commercial relationship, just like any other global economy. Why become importers when we can become exporters? Ladies and gentlemen, join me whilst I introduce to you these pillars. And I'd like to start with pillar 1, industrialization. We industrializing our mineral resources. Pillar 2, water, transportation, and the railway connectivity. We must dredge our water bodies that will enable the movement of goods, connecting inland regions to coastal ports in support of industrialization. Pillar 3, currency. The human resource is by far the strongest currency. You are the value. There's no value in any paper currency without you. If Africa is to rise, we need to make industrialization the centerpiece of our learning. In these 7 pillars lies the blueprint of Africa's transformation. What do you see as problem? I see it as opportunity to reclaim and redeem our lost heritage values. We let the history tell the rest. Thank you.
It is now time for Africa to process its own minerals.
Botswana has just discovered 15 rare earth minerals under the leadership of President Duma Boko. Not gold, not diamonds, something far more powerful than both of those things in the world we live in today. They found 15 rare earth minerals buried in the ground of a place called Chute Harbour in the northwest of the country, near a town called Shakawe. And these 15 minerals are not just valuable, they are the reason your phone works. They are the best reason electric cars move. They are the reason fighter jets can find their targets. They are the reason hospital MRI machines can scan your body. They are the reason wind turbines generate electricity. They are the reason our LED lights exist. Every technology that runs the modern world, every single one, needs these minerals to function. And Botswana just found 15 of them, in one place, in the ground, on African soil. Now here is the part that should make your blood run both hot and cold at the same time. The entire world, America, China, Europe, Japan, is desperately searching for exactly these minerals right now, not casually looking, desperately, urgently, spending billions, sending delegations, signing deals, applying pressure, because the country that controls these minerals controls the future of technology, clean energy, and military power for the next 50 years. And a small African country of 2.5 million people just woke up and realized it is sitting on top of all of them. First, let me explain what these minerals actually do, in language your mother can understand. Forget the complicated names for a moment. Let me show you why these 15 minerals matter by walking you through a single ordinary day in any modern city on this planet. You wake up in the morning and reach for your phone. Inside that phone is a vibration motor, a speaker, a camera, a screen. Every single one of those components contains rare earth minerals. Without them, your phone is a useless piece of glass and plastic. It does nothing. You get into a car, maybe one day soon, an electric car, because the whole world is moving that way. The motor that drives that electric car runs on a magnet. Not just any magnet, a rare earth magnet made from neodymium and praseodymium. Without those 2 minerals specifically, the electric car motor does not work. The electric vehicle revolution that every government on Earth is currently betting their energy future on cannot happen without the minerals they just found in Botswana. You go to a hospital. The doctor says you need an MRI scan. The contrast agent that makes the MRI image readable contains gadolinium, one of the 15 minerals confirmed at Getchwe Harbour. The LED lights above you in that hospital corridor contain europium and yttrium. The screen the doctor uses to read your results contains rare earth elements. You step outside. You see a wind turbine on the horizon generating clean electricity. Inside that turbine is a generator using the same neodymium magnets as the electric car. Without rare earth minerals, there is no wind power. Without wind power, the clean energy transition is fiction. Now multiply that single ordinary day by 8 billion people on this planet, by the hundreds of millions of electric vehicles that are going to be manufactured in the next 20 years, by the thousands of wind turbines being installed every month, by the military equipment of every major power on Earth, all of which depends on rare earth elements for its electronics and guidance systems. The demand for these minerals is not going up slowly, it is going up like a rocket. The International Energy Agency says demand for rare earth elements for clean energy alone will increase by 5 to 6 times before 2040. 5 to 6 times. And right now, there are not enough known deposits in the world to meet that demand. Now, let me tell you something that will make...
If I kissed my wife in public, I will lose all the elections in Uganda. Because Africans don't show what is private, they don't show it in public. If you want to kiss, you know the address of kissing, where it is.
We are so focused on not being Kenyans, but being Singaporeans. We need to be Kenyans. We need to fix the Kenyan problem. For those of us who want to be in Singapore, nowadays, if Singapore Airlines does not land in JKIA, we'll get it some hours to land there, pick some of them and go. When we're talking about protecting and strengthening devolution, they don't even know the number. They launched and said in the shareable revenue this year, they're going to get 450 billion. While I sat in parliament, it's 420 billion. How do you get it wrong with 30 billion? Hata kama hesabu ilikushinda daktari. 30 billion is quite a big gap to get it wrong. Next time, get it wrong with 2 billion.
Today, I want to ask a simple but serious question. Who is speaking for Nigeria in the world right now? Who represents Nigeria in Washington, in London, in Berlin, in Beijing? The answer is no one. Up until today, August 2025, nearly 2 years, no new ambassadors have been appointed. What that means is, Nigeria, the so-called giant of Africa, has no official voice in key countries.
So, over 7 months ago, I made a post about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu not appointing ambassadors, even though he was already almost 2 years into office. I raised this concern because, apart from the fact that I understood ambassadors perform important diplomatic functions, I also understood that timing in diplomacy does matter. That there are windows at which certain things are expected to happen. So, then in November 2025, the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu finally released the list of ambassadorial nominees. Immediately those names were released, we all witnessed the eruption, we saw the backlash, but despite all this, the Senate went ahead to confirm the nominees in December 2025. But even after the confirmation, it took this administration another 3 months until March 6 to finally announce the specific countries where these ambassador designates would be posted. And now, another development is beginning to unfold because reports indicate that only 2 countries, that is the United Kingdom and France, have formally accepted some of the nominees, with several other countries yet to respond because in diplomacy, the process is known as agrima. That is, the receiving country must approve an ambassador before the person can officially assume that role. And sometimes, timing matters, which is the remaining tenure of the government, and this can influence how quickly or whether or not those nominees have been accepted, which brings me back to the point I raised some months ago. Because of the bureaucratic nature of this administration, the way information is being ordered, decisions sometimes appear poorly timed and disconnected from how global diplomatic system actually operates. And this raises a deeper question about the level of strategic awareness within the leadership structure of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Because either the president was not properly advised that diplomacy has its own timeline and protocols, or perhaps people just assume that because Nigeria sometimes runs on anyhow approach internally, that same approach could simply be extended to the rest of the world. Because tell me why several countries, including India, are reportedly hesitant to accept some of Nigeria's recently nominated ambassadors. The reason, honestly, is not because some of them have bad reputation. The reason is tied to the diplomatic norms around the remaining tenure of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And sometimes when some of us raise these issues like this, we are quickly labeled haters. But months later, events are beginning to unfold. Today, the events are simply playing themselves out. And what this is revealing is not just diplomatic delay, but is also exposing the depth of leadership awareness, the preparedness in managing Nigeria's global relations. Because sometimes, when people around power are too afraid to speak honestly, what we begin to see are avoidable mistakes and global embarrassment from an administration that should have known better. It is a truth at a time. Take care and have a nice day.
Our visit to Brazil takes place against the backdrop of renewed conflict in the Middle East. We reiterate our call for the peaceful resolution of disputes in line with the United Nations Charter, and we condemn the loss of life, particularly the lives of civilians, and the destruction of vital infrastructure in that part of the world. And we call on all parties involved in this conflict to immediately cease fire so that the conflicts can be solved through negotiations. President Lula, your leadership has strengthened the foundations of our strategic partnership. We regard Brazil as a strategic partner in more ways than one, and we value your cooperation and also collaboration on a number of issues and areas. South Africa and Brazil share a commitment to equality, economic growth, and the eradication of poverty. And these shared values provide a strong basis for continuing to build practical, mutually beneficial initiatives that advance our respective national development priorities. I am joined in this visit by several ministers and officials working with their Brazilian counterparts. This delegation is well positioned to expand cooperation across key areas of mutual interest.
You won't believe what the government of Somali has done. The president of Somali has just signed a new law which must take effect immediately. And according to this new law, a person is not going to be allowed to vie for presidency in Somali unless you meet these 4 criteria that has just been set by the president of Somali, and this has already been put into law. Number 1, you have to be born in Somali. Number 2, your parents must be Somalis and originated from Somalis. Number 3, vie for presidency if you have married a person who is not a Somali. And number 4, you cannot have dual citizenship. This is a major shift in politics in Africa, because this is showing that Africa is seeking the true independence and Africa does not want Western influence anymore. Many presidents in Africa have dual citizenship, they have married foreigners, and many of even their parents are not from Africa, and yet the people of Africa have allowed them to take charge of them, and this is basically what is bringing the Western influence into African nations, and Somali has just said no.
free the Congo, free Sudan, boycott the US, and boycott the Washington spies in South Africa. So my previous 2 videos, I talked about the US, giving us warnings and threatening South Africa. And then I talked about the importance of voting. And this is what it all comes down to. The Brazilian president was warning our president, Cyril Ramaphosa, that them as Brazil and as South Africa really face the threat of future foreign invasion. And we've seen what is going on with the world, with Venezuela, with Iran and Israel. If the Israelis are displaced, they will seek a new home. We've seen what they've done to Palestine, and they will seek a new home. And unfortunately, their greener pastures are places like Brazil and South Africa. We have great weather, we have great people, we have great food. So who does not want to live in South Africa? And if you want to see them out, and if you want to plan ahead against this future invasion, it's very important that we vote for the right people. It's very important that we vote for people that will protect the rights of Africans. Africans, I mean, like people like, look at you and me, not the fake Africans that came from Europe that cannot stand in the African sun. It's very, very important. This local government elections will set a precedence for the next general election. So please go out and register and vote. Check that you're registered in the right voting district, and take your children, take your husband, take your boyfriend, take your girlfriend, and everybody else. Let's talk about these type of things, because they do affect us in all areas of our lives.
Africa, we have some of the lowest quality politicians. African countries say that they are democratic, they are kakistocratic. And kakistocracy is the government of the very worst. You are led by your very worst. That is kakistocracy. If you combine that with kleptocracy, which is a government of thieves, then you can see why Africa continued to punch below her weight.
This is good news, guys. This is the kind of news I love to post on my page, especially when it's coming from Africa. Something big just happened in Zambia. I mean, something really huge. And it's not just about Zambia, it's about Africa's future. The Zambian president has officially commissioned one of the biggest fertilizer projects in Southern Africa, a true game changer for the region. This fertilizer plant is part of the United Capital Fertilizer Project and was officially commissioned on October 16, 2025. The project cost about $600 million US. Once fully operational, the plant is expected to produce about 300,000 tons of fertilizers every year and eventually scale up to over 1.6 million tons through expansion. This is a huge win for the Zambian people because fertilizer is key to agriculture. So producing it locally means cheaper fertilizer for farmers, more jobs for citizens, and more foreign exchange saved. Stronger food security for the country. You see? So across Africa, fertilizer shortages and high prices have held back agriculture. Most countries depend on imports. But with Zambia producing on this scale, it can supply its neighbors, lower costs across the region, and help Africa take a bold step towards agricultural independence. So this is really the kind of development we want to see in Africa. We must stop importing everything and start producing right here on the continent, because I know we can. This is how Africa begins to own its value chains from the soil to the supply chain. Our African leaders can really do this. I don't know why they keep holding back. So good job to you, the Zambian people. You've done this one, and we are so happy that you have done this. I really hope that other African countries will follow suit and stop importing and find a means to start producing everything. Thank you all for watching this video, and let me know what you think about it down there in the comment section. Bye for now.
So in this clip, this guy tells Kenyans that you should focus first with Kenyan problems and solve them, rather than thinking about Singapore, because at the moment, since the president said that if he was given the chance to lead this country like 20 years ago, it will be like Singapore. But then it's not too late. We will still get there. So he promised Kenyans that in the next coming years, like very few years, Kenya will be like Singapore. And that is because Singapore was like Kenya like some 50 years ago. And the funny thing is that the model and the plan that Singapore used to get into its state now is that of Kenya, because there was this story in social media whereby there is this young man called Kimani that goes around Kenya and does civic education, and is trying to actually bring a bill whereby the constitution must be learned in Kenyan schools, must be studied in Kenyan schools. Like the constitutions should be discussed and be explained by everyone, just like the way everybody knows about the Bible. And according to me, I will say that that will be beautiful, wonderful, because by introducing that subject as compulsory, it will enable every Kenyan child, every Kenyan person, every Kenyan citizen to understand their rights and hence know what to do and not what to do. At the moment, nobody really understands about the constitution. Therefore, we don't really know how to respond, what to do whenever we are involved in legal issues, and that is very, very disadvantageous. And now, as this guy comes out and tells us that we are so much focused on Singapore rather than focusing on Kenya first, it's very wrong. It's extremely wrong, because we are two different worlds led by two different leaders. And remember, PLO Lumumba was telling us that Kenya has a problem of having poor leaders, worst leaders, who, when they come into power, the only thing that they do is to steal. The only thing that they do is to engage in corruption, to engage in tribalism, and not to empower the people. Once you elect a leader, the first thing that they do is to ensure that they become richer and richer and richer, and therefore that is really affecting us economically. That is really affecting us in such a way that there are no opportunities that are being created, and it's affecting us in such a way that our countries will live like hundreds and thousands of years with debt, and this debt that are being borrowed in dollars and being repaid in actually it just doesn't make sense. And in some way I agreed with him, because see, a country like Burkina Faso, a country like Mali, Niger, these are countries, the Sahel countries, that are being led by the right leaders, I will say, because these leaders, when they say something, they do it. When they say that from tomorrow this is what we'll be doing, that is what they do. They are actually trying to help their people. They are trying to move their country forward, like slowly by slowly. They'll get there. They're not yet there, but at least they are doing the correct thing. So, my good people, what I heard from this guy that was actually apologizing on behalf of other African mistakes that has costed us so much, I really felt for it. And of course, I agree with him that we need to build our own land first. We need to use our resources well. By the time somebody goes to an assembly, a congregation, and apologizes on behalf of the mistakes of the African leaders, this person must have done extremely must have done an extreme research, understands everything to the point that when he comes out and talks to the people, he knows what he's delivering. So the message was actually so humbling, and of course it's the truth, nothing but the truth. Our leaders are the ones that have always let us down, but we hope that one day, one time, we will get leaders who have the energy to work for us, who have the will to work for us, and not to work for their stomachs. We will be at a better place. So there is this politician in Kenya called James Orengo. She has been in the political arena for like most of his life, and therefore he understands a lot and a lot of things. So, I mean, when we talk about the constitution of several regions, countries, he has them, he understands them very, very well, because when these constitutions were being created and tabled, they actually were part of those that contributed to these constitutions. So many people nowadays call him a working constitution because he really understands them. And that's why I will say that I will live to support this young man from Kenya, a lawyer that goes around Kenya, trying to educate Kenyans about the importance of knowing the Constitution, understanding the Constitution, so that by the time you come and do a protest, you understand who is the problem, what is the problem, how was the problem caused, how is it going to be solved, and who will solve it. So, guys, India has rejected an ambassadorial nominee from Nigeria. And you'll ask yourself why? Why? A lot of questions that has triggered in my mind, because Nigeria is this country that are being rejected like worldwide. If you try to go to UK, if you want to go to America, they are known for being scammers. They're being known for being corrupt. Like if you go there to their country and you want to be shown direction, they'll actually ensure that they exploit you and get some money from you just by asking them something. And now they are so much involved into this online romance scams, and sorry. And by the time India comes out and rejects them, that means a lot. It shows us, it tells us a lot. So I really loved the message from Botswana President Boko. This guy said that it is time for Africa to start processing their own raw materials. It's time for Africa to get their own raw materials and do their own businesses at home, not like harvesting the raw materials and then sending them abroad. They are processed into finished products. They come back to Africa, and when they come back, they are triple or 5 times the price, which is a disadvantage on our end. So if we get the raw materials, we process it and sell on our side, then it becomes better and boosts our economy. There was this issue about the president of Somalia, who came up with rules on who should vie for the president, and they published a requirement around 4 of them. And I was like, what? Like, what is that? Does that even make sense at all? No, it does not make sense, guys, and it will never make sense, because for you to be a democratic country, people should be free. At this point, I believe Somalians are not free at all, because tell me why, if you want to be a president in America, you must not have a dual citizenship. Like, why? Why? Tell me why, if you want to be a president in Somalia, you must be born in Somalia, like born, guys. Hear that? Because suppose your wife or your mother is pregnant, and then they go visit their sister or uncle in America, and then you're born there, you get your documentation there, and then later on you come back and understand such kind of things. Like, you must be born in Somalia. I mean, anybody can be born anywhere, because being born anywhere does not take your right of belonging somewhere. I mean, again, your parents must be Somalians, and you must marry from Somalia. Oh my God. Who is this person that wants to vie for the president of Somalia, that feels that the current president feels so threatened by him? I need to know. We need to follow up on this story, guys. We need to understand. And finally, let's talk about the president of Zimbabwe, who came up with a fertilizer plant to help support the people of Zimbabwe. That is commendable, because when we bring up a plant, that means that there are job opportunities at the end of the day, right? And when you support one person, it means that you've supported his or her entire family. Thank you so much. If you watched the clip up to this point, I will see you in the next video. I love you to the moon and back. Subscribe.